another episode of the Fake Football Analysts. I'm your host, the most, Aaron Cass. Hollywood Ray's not here. He's doing Hollywood things at Fenway Park, so don't mind him. But we got someone just as good, maybe even a little bit better. Christian Cruz from the 7th Floor Crew. How you doing, Christian? How are we doing today?
You know, I can't compare myself to the great Hollywood Ray, but I'm doing great. Not as good as some of your Hurricanes players are looking, Mr. Carson Beck. Oh, you thought I was going to say Ruben Bain, huh? But I'm doing good, man. I can't complain, man. I'm very excited to talk about some of the things that we're going to be talking about with the chat today. So can't complain.
Nice, nice. So speaking of those hurricanes, let's get into our first topic of the day. Before we do that, make sure you like, subscribe, follow us on Fake Football Analyst right here on YouTube. Make sure you follow also on TikTok, Fake Football Analyst, as well as the Twitter. I'm gonna keep calling it Twitter _ Fake Analyst. Also, too, make sure you follow Christian Cruz. I'm gonna put it in the description later on. Make sure you follow his Twitter account. Make sure you follow the Giant Topic as well. And not only follow, if any podcasters are watching this or want us, most of these graphics, if not all, is all made by Christian Cruz. So if anyone needs any help, he's your man.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the
But
plug.
but let's get to that first topic. We talk about the 7th Floor Crew. Carson Beck,
Hmm.
man, he was making throws in this Hall of Fame game that I wish he made in the national championship game. I'm a little salty about it. I wish he threw it to Keelan Marion a little bit sooner, a little bit deeper, but that's okay. He did it in the pros. That's fine. His elbow must be 100%. I'm not hurting, but I think he played tremendously to be the backup to Jacoby Brissett. I also think Haynes King, if you've never heard of him, he's basically been at Georgia Tech for like 5 years. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna say that it's exaggeration. He's been there for like 5 years, maybe even a little bit longer, and he is who you think he is. An exceptional running quarterback. He has an arm. It's not a strong arm, but it gets the job done. So you can't really complain about that. And also, I think he's coming for Kenny Pickett's job. In
I
all
think so
honesty,
too.
like any other thoughts on the Hall of Fame game? Because I could go even worse on Kenny Pickett, Super Bowl champion, which is even worse.
No, Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett, Mr. Two Gloves. Um, I agree with you, Aaron. I thought this was a great showing for Carson Beck to be, I believe it was 16 of 19, 188 yards. He had a beautiful touchdown, right? I mean, just he was making throws that, let's be honest here, someone who has played as much as Carson Beck has played at the collegiate level should be making, right? We saw that with Tyler Shuck just this past season, where he didn't really look like a rookie out there. He looked comfortable. He didn't look phased. And that was kind of the same with Carson Beck. Now, granted, obviously these defenses are going to be vanilla. They're not going to draw up anything that's going to be too, I guess, disguisey, if you will. But I think that he was making some tight window throws. He wasn't making any boneheaded decisions out there. He looked promising. And I agree with you. I think that he's going to be a competent backup to Jacoby Brissett. But I don't know about you, Aaron. I wouldn't be shocked if he does get some playing time this year. Because as much as I like Jacoby Brissett, I do think that Lafleur is going to want to see Carson Beck out there just in case. Do we need to pivot next year, come draft time, and actually use our resources to secure a franchise quarterback? Well, if you're giving Beck some of these snaps and you're playing him in some of these games, you should have a pretty good idea of whether you can push that off for a year or not. But I thought it was a good showing. But also to the Panthers' credit, like you said with Hayes, I mean I thought he looked poised back there. Um, I would love to be a fly on the wall. In terms of Kenny Pickett, I'm pretty sure he's thinking to himself, I should probably contact my realtor because I don't think I'm going to be the backup here. And if I am, it's probably going to be on the practice squad. But can I ask you something? Would you say that that was the most entertaining Hall of Fame game or preseason game that we've seen?
I definitely think so. I think when I go into watching Hall of Fame games or preseason like that, I'm just like, all right, like let's see what these threes can do. If there's anyone special, or
Hmm.
even players that should not be playing in this game are playing and they regress. But this one I thought it was flying. It felt like a week one, battle of like the worst defenses, like just gunslinging action. So I thought it was very entertaining. Chris Collinsworth was being Chris Collinsworth, and it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes. So that made it even better with how good this game was. The one
Right.
thing I was concerned with is one player in particular with Trevor Achan. I
Is
just
that how
learned
you
that.
say it? I
I
always say ETN, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I just learned that this year when his brother Travis got signed with New Orleans. It's Etienne or HN,
interesting.
however you want
Okay.
to say it. I thought he was lackluster in this, and this is all against twos and threes, more or less threes and fours. So the fact that he only had 4 carries for 12 yards, he wasn't really that vocal in the passing I guess receiving game. He had one for -1. That kind of puts me in concern here as someone who can be a good backup to Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard, and you couldn't even scratch the surface with a bunch of threes.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's only one game, right?
True.
But he didn't look that great. There were a couple other players on both sides for Arizona as well, and for obviously Carolina, that didn't look too good. But I don't know. Like I thought that there were some players that really did stick out to me from yesterday's game. Obviously Beck being one of them. And Hayes being another. But I agree with you. I just want to see, obviously how the preseason goes, and we'll see in the regular season, from there. But I mean, it's one of those things where you just got to take it with a grain of salt. You just have to be able to look at it. You can take the pros and the cons from it, but still just all right. Let's see next week. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts on the Hall of Fame game before we go to our next topic?
I guess we could leave it off with this. I mean, I thought that Arizona, they didn't embarrass themselves, right? I think a lot of people think that they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. Understandably so, because they have been one of the worst teams in the NFL, right?
I can still
But
see it though.
I could see it too. I could absolutely see it too. But I think they'll be competitive. I think offensively they have some good pieces. I was actually shocked that we didn't see guys like Marvin Harrison get snaps or Jeremiah Love. Now I understand, these are guys that you're looking to have as pillars for your offense, right? But at the same time, I think that Marvin Harrison, as promising of a player as he was out of college, he's been very underwhelming at the pros. So I would have liked to see him get some snaps. And obviously, they have some more preseason games to go. So I'm not worrying about it too much. But I would have liked to see Jeremiah Love out there. I remember, Aaron, I know you remember too, the Giants' first preseason game years ago against the Cleveland Browns. They were not shy to let Saquon Barkley play. I believe it was only for like one or two drives, but he got some game action. You kind of got a glimpse of what to expect. And maybe come the third or fourth preseason game, we'll see guys like Marvin Harrison suit up, just to kind of knock that rust off. Same with Jeremiah Love, same with Trey McBride. Because we know historically how teams look come week one to like week four when certain players aren't getting time to play in the preseason. Now we'll see, but that was just something that I personally was thinking of watching that game yesterday.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that with the Marvin Harrison. I think just because of his first 2 years in the league. I mean, granted, he's on a really bad team, like we
Mm-hmm.
just said, but you see guys like Michael Wilson step up, in a bigger role last year. It's almost seeming like Michael Wilson could be your number one than your number two. So I would have liked to
Yeah.
see Marvin Harrison at least for, I would say 2 series just to be nice because again they have I think 2 more preseason games. This is how the CBA is. Unless I think you can add another one for because of the Hall of Fame game. But
No,
regardless, yeah,
I think
no.
I think the Hall of Fame game counts. I could be wrong though, but I do believe it
Mm.
counts as one game.
Oh yeah, so they definitely need to start playing these starters. And as far as having Jeremiah Love in there, I don't know, man. I'm seeing these practices, and that O line is not protecting him. I granted
No, they're
it's
not.
against the same team, but I don't think I'd want to see him in any preseason game.
That's fair. It's just me and my selfish ways. I just want to
I don't
see
blame you.
great players on the fields. I'm itching for football. I was glued to my chair watching that game last night, and I'm glad I did. It was a great game. So, but I agree with you though. Typically, you don't want those players out there. You don't want to risk injury, but I just feel like a lot of teams treat the first 4 weeks of the year like an extension of the preseason. So it would be nice to have some of these guys knock the rust off and at least get. I'm not saying they got to play the whole game, but at least a drive or two, or maybe even a quarter. But I agree with you though.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, we've got a few signings
We do.
of players that make the biggest impact on their team, and I kind of want to ask this question. But first, before I do that, we have Bijan Robinson, we got Jonathan Taylor, we got Jameer Gibbs. What do they have all
Mm-hmm.
in common? New money, new paper.
Yeah.
So I'll start off with the first guy who was signed. Bijan Robinson signed a 3-year, $75 million contract. Now that was the first domino because between him and Jameer Gibbs, it was who's gonna play chicken first, and Bijan Robinson was like, I'll start it off, which is great for Jameer Gibbs. Because when that happened, Jameer Gibbs was like, you know what, 75 mil, let's add a point 75 to that. So his is also a 3-year deal with 75.75 million. So I felt like Jameer Gibbs won in that sense. But then Jonathan Taylor was like, you know what? I think I need an extension too. You sign Alec Pierce, you sign Daniel Jones. Let's go. Let me get my money. I'm the most important for Daniel Jones, aka his Saquon Barkley of Indiana, and he signed a 2-year, $44 million contract. So
Mm-hmm.
my question is to you: is the running back market finally getting, actually, let me rephrase this: is the running back market, to quote Birdman, to put some respect on their names?
I think so. I think history. We know this, right? Things come full circle. What was cool a couple decades ago always comes back full circle. Whether it's music, clothing, culture, like it just happens, right? And we saw for years the undervaluing of the running back position, right? Where teams felt be mainly due to the Kyle Shanahan's, Sean McVays of the world. Well, we could find a more than capable running back in the later rounds. But to me, I think guys like Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Jameer Gibbs, these are difference makers. These are weapons. And I hope that these guys, this is the start of the running back market exploding, which it should. I mean, look at some of the best teams in the NFL. What do they have? They have a reliable run game. Josh Allen just had the league's leading rusher in James Cook, right? Who he was fighting tooth and nail to get a contract, right? And Bijan Robinson, Jameer Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, to me, those are no brainers. Those are cultural changing players. Those are players who, at any given moment when they have the ball in their hands, they're going to score. We've seen it time and time again where a play looks dead. Bijan Robinson makes a quick cut. He's gone. He's out of here. We've seen it with Saquon Barkley, right? As Giants fans, and obviously he's doing this thing in Philly. Jameer Gibbs. I'm not going to lie. When he got his extension, the first thing that came to my head was, damn, that run that he had on the first play of overtime, because some of you guys know me and Aaron are Giants fans, but that first run in overtime against the Detroit Lions in Detroit, Jameer Gibbs bust, I think it was like a 70-yard run, untouched. He is just an electric player. I mean, these are guys that are worth the money that they're getting paid and then some. So yeah, you're gonna have your guys who you can find in the later rounds, or you can find in as an undrafted player. But guys like Bijan Robinson, Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon, James Cook, I mean, the list goes on. I mean, you're gonna have to spend premium capital to get these kind of players, and they're going to cost money. So I love it for the running back position. Um, I don't know if you remember, Aaron, but do you remember a couple years ago them having that Zoom meeting about wanting to properly be compensated for their position. And people were talking to these players crazy, being like, what is that meeting going to do? And obviously Saquon got his money with the Eagles. That felt like kind of the start of it a little bit. Jonathan Taylor's always been taken care of because he's really been the entire offense for Indianapolis up until Daniel Jones got there. So I love it personally for these guys, and I love it for the running back position as a whole.
Yeah, I think with Jonathan Taylor, this is the second time where he has gotten a contract extension from the Colts. The first time, I don't know if you remember, he actually requested a trade
Yeah,
to
I
get
do.
out of Indianapolis. Indy was like, "Whoa, no, we'll pay you, we'll pay you." Now, before I get into this, as well, is I've never been a big fan of paying the running back too much. Not, I guess too much money. I.e., example Saquon Barkley. Now, Saquon Barkley, in his first 4 years with the Giants, he was like the workhorse. It was really just him. So he was putting on a lot of miles, and his offensive line wasn't that good. He was always getting hurt. So at that point in time, I was like, you know what? He's not worth that much money. And at that time, because it was against him and Daniel Jones, I was siding with Daniel Jones because at that point there was nothing in that quarterback market. Now,
Right.
when I saw Jameer Gibbs and Bijan Robinson get theirs, because Jonathan Taylor, I kind of had a feeling because with with Daniel Jones, they need Jonathan Taylor, and Jonathan Taylor
Absolutely.
needs him just because of what we saw in fantasy and regular season. Jonathan Taylor went off with Daniel Jones, and it kind of compensated. So I figured he was going to stay. With Jameer Gibbs and Bijan, I feel like they take care of themselves very well. They're not really a workhorse. I hope Kevin Stefanski does what Raheem Morris did last year and kind of have a second back for Bijan to kind of carry off all that load. Just because of what Bijan did in Texas, where he was the main guy, then it comes to Atlanta, and he not necessarily a workhorse, but he was getting on that level. So hopefully with that, and then Jameer, it's the same thing, except he's missing David Montgomery, but he gets Isaiah Pacheco, a good goal line guy. If you're in between the 5 yard line and the 10 yard line, you can put in Isaiah Pacheco. He knows what he's doing. He has Super Bowl rings. So I think it's great when you can pay your running backs like that and you have backups to help compensate each back where they're not going to be the workhorse. When it comes to workhorse running backs, I really don't want to pay that much money just because they have injury history. They're just getting work so much with, like, let's say 200 carries like Saquon did his first year with the Eagles. If it's like that, it's like I'm not going to spend my money. I'd rather give it or spread it more for other positions. But
Right.
the fact that these two guys have reliable backups, they're always healthy to the point where you can put a good amount on them and they get the job done. So I actually really love that all three of these guys got paid and the market is different because now it'll make people think like what you were saying, like, oh, like we got like that is basically like our prime capital is the running back position because it gets so used, torn up, and abused for so much that
Hmm.
they have to secure them. Or if you don't have a good running back system, you really don't really have an offense.
I agree. And Aaron, think about it like this, right? I think right now the wide receiver position is going through what the running backs went through a couple years ago,
I agree.
right? You have teams finding elite wide receivers in later rounds, and these wide receivers are making north of $30 million. And it's like it feels like every year the league churns out these great wide receivers that people didn't really see coming. Um, a la like we was talking about with the Cardinals with Michael Wilson, but I think that yes, right. These players do have they do have complementary backs behind them. And I'm even gonna throw in Christian McCaffrey, right? But I do think that even with you having a complementary back behind you, it's not going to be the same as opposed to having that player on the field, right? If Jonathan Taylor goes down, yeah, they might have someone who can be decent, if not maybe average behind them, but teams aren't going to approach that player like they would for Jonathan Taylor, right? If Saquon Barkley is on the field, teams have to prepare for him. If he gets off of the field, I believe they still have Tank Bigsby. I think he's still there. I
Yeah.
like Tank. He's not Saquon. When Christian McCaffrey was injured and they had Jordan Mason, I mean, he was decent, but it's not Christian McCaffrey. You know what I mean? And God forbid Jameer Gibbs goes down, you have Isaiah Pacheco.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Super Bowl champion.
Yes,
He's carried that load in Kansas City.
he has. And obviously, before he had David Montgomery and Bijan had Tyler Algier, who I feel bad for Tyler Algier. My goodness. But
Facts.
these are guys who, yeah, you might have someone that's complimentary behind you, but they're not weapons. These guys are weapons. Nowadays, you need a back that can catch the ball out the field because they're going to get you involved in the passing game. They're going to get you involved in blocking as well. You can't just be a run of the mill, I'm going to just run through you kind of a back. You got to have some finesse to you. You got to have something in your arsenal. And I
Unless
think
your
you and I
name is
can
Derrick
agree.
Henry.
Yeah, yeah, unless you're Derrick Henry, right? But ultimately, it's like you need these kind of players, especially come the postseason, right? When the weather's colder, or if you're playing on the road in weather where it's kind of hard to pass the ball because it's really windy. You need backs. You need a back like Jameer Gibbs. You need a back like Jonathan Taylor or Bijan Robinson to get it done. James Cook. So I love it for the running back position. I love it for these guys because they're deserving. They've worked for their money. And I don't think anybody would have any reservations of paying these guys. So I love it for them.
Yeah, and one final thought before we get to the next topic is what I like about even all three, with Jonathan Taylor, Bijan, and Jameer, is they can win you games just by their legs alone. And what I mean is, with Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis, like what I just said earlier with Daniel Jones, is Jonathan Taylor could score like 3 touchdowns and essentially win the game for you all on his own.
Oh
Same thing
yeah.
with Bijan, same thing with Jameer Gibbs. With these guys, it's like what you were saying earlier too. It's like that 70-yard run in overtime, game over, boom. Like with all three of these guys, if you give them the ball, say, "Yo, win this game for us," they'll put their byline score 2 or 3 touchdowns or rush for 186 yards or more and get the job done. So it's not like these running backs, like you just throwing money at them and they're not going to do anything, or they come up short. Like all three of these guys, if you say win me the game, they will run through a brick wall and win the game for you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And these are just players who you tell them to go make a play, they're gonna go make a play. You
They
tell them,
do it with
hey,
ease.
exactly, right? If your quarterback gets injured, you feel comfortable just turning that ball over and just giving it to your running back. Or dumping it off to him in the screen game, right? I mean, so I again, I'm very excited to see how some of these players look this coming season, especially since two of these players, hopefully, will be in better situations, right? With the Falcons, you're hoping Penix or Tua wins that. Oh my God. Um, if you're Jonathan Taylor, you're hoping that Daniel Jones looks how he did in the prior to his injury. And obviously Jameer Gibbs. I mean, the Lions are going to be the Lions, so I don't. You already know, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, rumor has it that Tua is the leader for Week 1, which
I
is a
can see it.
scary thought.
It is a scary thought. Thankfully, we don't got to deal with that, but I can see it.
No, but you know what we do have to deal with though? Stefan Diggs. He is
Ugh.
now in the NFC East after being in the AFC East with the Patriots. He signed a 1-year deal for $12 million to go to the Washington Commanders. Before I talk about it, what are your thoughts, Christian? And I will add a question. I lied. Is he a solid number 2 in the NFC East?
So to answer your question, a solid number two in the NFC East. I think he's a solid two for the Commanders. Yes. I would. I and we'll talk about him a little bit later. I would have thought they would have went the Ayuk route. Kind of surprised that they didn't. But I think that he could complement Terry McLaurin well. I thought that he had a pretty decent year with the New England Patriots, right? And Drake May. Um, I mean, he was a reliable target for Drake May. And I think in this offense, right? I mean, Terry McLaurin, he's getting up there in age. Same with Stefan Diggs. I believe they still have Traylon Burke. I know they still have Luke McCaffrey. These are guys who, yeah, they're decent depth wise, but I would have felt very wary having either of them be your wide receiver too, and you insert Stefan Diggs. I mean, you're not going to get the Diggs from Buffalo, right? You're not going to get the Diggs from Houston, even, right? But you're going to get someone who's a complementary player, has a low drop rate, could still get wide open. You know, he still has pretty decent separation, right? I think that he's someone who is really going to help Jayden Daniels a lot. If Jayden Daniels can stay healthy, I think that he's going to help Jayden Daniels a lot. And I actually do like it for the Commanders, right? Because you're getting what could potentially be a motivated Stefan Diggs. Stefan went through a lot this offseason. It was very interesting seeing how that whole thing played out. But I think you're going to get a motivated Stefan Diggs, someone that brings energy to your offense, someone that could take the load off of Terry McLaurin and respectively take the load off Terry McLaurin. Because I can't tell you the amount of games I've seen where Terry McLaurin is getting doubled, right? And just other guys outside of that just underperforming, right? But Jada Daniels is Jada Daniels and he'll make a play, right? He'll figure it out. Now you have someone who teams have to respect, right? He's no scrub. He's not someone that you could just be like, we'll just put our quarterback three on him or our slot corner on him and call it a day. No, he could still get open. He could still create big chunk plays. Obviously, again, like he's not the same Stefan Diggs from Buffalo or from Houston, but I like this for Washington. I'm not worried about it as a Giants fan, but I like this for Washington.
Well, from what I've seen in quarterback camp for the Giants, I actually might be a little nervous.
Understandably. I just think that D line
um,
gonna get to them too quick, but understandably.
yeah, I hope so. If Bobby Johnson's still the O line coach there in Washington, I have no doubt our pass rush will get through there. I I'm a little iffy on this signing. We all know Cliff Kingsbury left last in the offseason. He's now an
Mhm.
assistant coach for Jim Harbaugh in LA for the Chargers, and they brought in David Blau this
Yeah.
offseason. If anyone doesn't remember David Blau, he was on Hard Knocks with the Lions, and his wife actually, I think she won gold for the Olympics. I believe they showed that in the Hard Knocks. Former quarterback for the Lions. I'm curious what they're gonna do with Stefan and Terry McLaurin in this offense, just because one, they're both 31, 32, so that kind of scares me a little bit. Two, Jayden Daniels is coming off an injury, but Jayden Daniels is coming off an injury, and that's I feel like that scares me the most. If he can throw Stefan Diggs, if he's even going to be aware in 3 seconds to throw to Stefan Diggs. And then three, the only thing I will agree on was I do believe he's probably one of the best number twos in the league, just because he did with that crowded Patriots offense and those receivers. He had 1,000 yards, and I believe he had 10 touchdowns in the
Something
regular
like that.
season.
Yeah, something
So
like that.
that's pretty good for a number two. And I do believe his commercial or his post on Instagram where he said, "I'm better than most of your number two receivers." I don't doubt that. It's just I feel like Father Time always wins, and with two older receivers like that, and it's like Treylon Burks. Yeah, he's on the team, but it's like, what have you done for me lately? He had that one touchdown with the Commanders, and it's like, it's kind of really it. He couldn't do anything in Tennessee. Luke McCaffrey, it's like he's not run CMC. He's just
Mhm.
there. He's just a guy. So I feel like with Stephon and Scary Terry, it's just, can you stay healthy for me the entire season?
Right.
So that's the only thing I'm curious about with Stephon being on the Commanders. I think though it is great for Jayden Daniels, like what you were saying to that point, where he kind of has someone that can mentor him in a way to help improve his game. I mean, Stephon Diggs has played with some pretty good quarterbacks. Who could forget Case Keenum in Minnesota? I mean,
Yeah.
who could forget that guy? Bring him to the NFC Championship game. He worked with Josh Allen. He was there with C.J. Stroud for half season before he tore his ACL. He was there with Drake May, who advanced all the way to the Super Bowl in his second year. So the fact that you have Jayden Daniels coming to his third year, and the way his rookie year was with the receivers that he had, which wasn't much, you have Stefan Diggs, who I do feel like he's going to throw a lot more to Stefan,
Mhm.
just because I feel like Stefan's more in his route tree than Scary Terry.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that you can move Stephon Diggs all throughout the line, right? You can put
Mm-hmm.
him outside, you can put him on the inside, you can put him on the end around if you wanted to. Um, Obviously, he's not like I said, he's not going to be the Stephon Diggs from Houston or from Buffalo, but I think if we could take anything that we saw from last year with New England, he's a more than serviceable wide receiver too. And it's just really just going to come down to health, right? For a lot of these players on that Washington Commanders offense and defense too, because they're just an old team. They're an old team trying to turn over an old roster and get younger. But again, you said it best. I mean, you have these guys north of 30. Um, I'm not too worried about it though. I think it's really just going to come down to just the health. How are these two going? How many games are these guys going to play together? I'm confident Terry McLaurin is going to do Terry McLaurin things, and I think Stephon Diggs, if he could just stay healthy, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw another 900 yard season if Jayden Daniels is healthy. I like it for Washington. I really do. I think that it's a nice number two. And who knows if he can play fairly decent again, have another 900 yard season. I could see them being comfortable saying to themselves, "Hey, let's give him a 2 year extension. We could grab his replacement in the draft. We can develop him, maybe insert him as the wide receiver three, work himself up to the two. But I do agree with you in the sense that I think that he's going to have a lot of opportunities to touch the ball with the attention that Terry McLaurin does gather, right? Or garner, should I say. So he's going to have his opportunities. He's just going to have to make the most of it.
Yeah, and you know what? I agree with the 2 year if he does, ball out. And he looked pretty crisp in the training camp that I saw the one day. There is a guy who he could mentor right now instead of waiting for the draft. That's number 14, Tonio Williams, who's a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that if he got under Stephon Diggs' wing in that sense, I think he could improve drastically to be their slot guy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it could work. It's just they might already have that piece instead of
Yeah,
waiting for it.
for sure. For sure. I agree with you. Do you want to move to the next topic, Aaron?
Yep. But before we do that,
Talk to me.
make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow us, the Fake Football Analysts on YouTube. Make sure as well you follow the Giant topic on all media platforms. All you gotta do exactly how it is right there on all media platforms. Great content, great stuff. Make sure you follow Christian Cruz as well. Is Christian A Cruz underscore. He is always on Twitter talking about Giants and other things possible. So wanted to put that in there before we get
Appreciate
to
it.
our next topic. So our next one, oh jeez, we go from a receiver getting signed to a receiver's going down. So it
God.
looks like there's only maybe 10 to 20% of the San Francisco 49ers that are even active on the roster. So I looked it up, and I should have popped it up before, so I apologize. But I feel like last year when Christian McCaffrey got hurt, he must have done something in Berlin or
Mhm.
something at home where he can suck the energy from other players to put into him, because so far he's been healthy.
Yeah.
And ever since he got his treatment in Berlin and overseas, everyone else has been getting hurt. So
Mhm.
there's 20% of the roster is injured, and here is a few names right now: Mike Evans, quad. Second round pick this year's draft from Ole Miss, DeJon Stribling, hamstring. Ricky Pearsall, I feel bad for him because he's never missed a game in college at Florida. He's missed 31 games so far in the NFL. Coincidence? I don't
Nope.
think so. So he's out for the year from his PCL. Christian Kirk, new signing, calf, out. Jordan James, backup running back, rib. Kalen Black, abductor. Mikhail Kamara, knee. Keon White, abductor. Malik Mustafa, hamstring. Fadarian Lower, ankle. Grayson Holland, knee bruise. Andrew Farmer, back. George Kittle coming off that Achilles. Brandon Ayuk, I don't know what's going on. We said it before the show started. We were saying it in text. I think that supercharger for the Niners practice squad for where they practice, I think it's messing everybody up. But that's just me.
Aaron, I'm starting to believe it. Before it was a funny joke, and there was some scientific data that actually did back it up. I'd love to see them actually like investigate it, but it gets to a point where you're just like, something has to change. It would be one thing if this was just one season. It feels like every single season since Kyle Shanahan has been there, this team is just riddled with injuries. Now, granted, to Kyle Shanahan's credit, who, I mean, you might as well put him on the injury report because he was in a car accident, right? But to his credit, whatever the roster is, he'll win 8, 9 games, maybe 10. You got to give
Isn't
credit
that
to that coaching
scary?
staff. But Aaron, it's like it gets to a point though where you're just saying like, is it the medical staff? I mean, Brandon Ayuk criticized the 49ers medical staff and said they don't know what they're doing. Listen, I don't condone Brandon Ayuk's actions, what we've seen. I think it's funny, but I don't condone it. You don't want to see that from your players. But if there's anything I could take from what Brandon Ayuk has said, it's this, where it's that I'm questioning that medical staff because you mentioned Ricky Pearsall. The medical staff, if my memory serves me correct, chat, if you're watching this, I might have the wrong information, but I'm almost positive. And Aaron, while you're talking, I'll look into it too. But the medical staff told Ricky Pearsall to not perform surgery, or there was something about his swelling in the knee, and not to do anything for it. And then it led to him being out for the season. So it's like at some point, I want to say it's a substation messing with tendons and everything, but at some point, I'm looking at that medical staff and I'm saying, what's going on? Like, what are we doing? Is it Kyle Shanahan? Is his practices too? I don't want to say too rough. This is football, but I mean, you've heard players in the past kind of complain about his training camps and how things are. So I just wondered to myself, is it the medical staff? Is it how he operates his training camp? Like, what is it? Like, I don't understand because you listed all these players. Some of them are new signings. Ooh, I'm gonna take Mike Evans out of this because he's always dealt with like hamstrings and quads, so I'm gonna take him out of it. But like you said, Ricky Pearsall, fairly healthy in college, goes to the 49ers. I'm not going to put him getting shot in the chest as
I'm not, I
something on
wasn't.
him,
Yeah, I won't count
but
that. I mean, he did miss. He missed some time, but I'm not considering that football related. Yeah.
yeah. But some of these guys, I mean, Christian Kirk, to my recollection, has been fairly healthy in recent years. I just, I don't know if it's strength and conditioning. I don't know if it's the medical staff. I have no idea. But Aaron and chat, all I'm going to say is this. If in 10 years from now we get a 49ers documentary on either the medical staff or that substation, do not be surprised because this is egregious. I mean, I always had my reservations on like the Baltimore Ravens because they were for years one of the teams like the 49ers who they just had injuries out the can, but the 49ers every single year just outdo themselves. So I really don't know.
I mean, I thought the Giants' training staff was bad. I didn't think that we had another team that could surpass this
No.
with the San
And,
Francisco 49ers.
and hold on, I gotta push back really quick because we as fans, Giants fans specifically, we do get on Ronnie Barnes. He's been there for I think since like the 80s. He's been
Yeah.
there, right? But I will say I am very thankful that we do not have the injuries that teams like the 49ers deal with, teams like the Baltimore Ravens deal with. We'll only have like maybe 3 or 4 players. Aaron, you were listing it and it sounded like a grocery receipt.
It was
It
pretty
sounded like a
close.
grocery receipt, man. Like it's I had a graphic here that I'm looking at for all of the names, and it's like if they would have added one more name, they would have had to change the font size. Like it's crazy, man. I don't understand it. Um, and it's gonna get to a point where if you're the 49ers, do you just say, even though you know that Kyle Shanahan is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, something has to change. Like we're losing our best players to injury, and yes, you are a great coach and you are getting us these wins, but it's not showing up in the postseason. It's not showing up when it matters. So I don't know, but it's very perplexing. And I'm very curious as to what is causing this to happen. I mean, just like the rest of the league.
Yeah, the only positive I can think of is that it's the beginning of training camp. So hopefully everyone kind of comes back and the injuries aren't there. And also, with all this going on, I kind of am starting to believe Brandon Ayuk, where he may have some CTE or it could be from the substation. Maybe he's been right all along and we're just not realizing it because of what he's saying, what he's putting up on social media. That we're just like, he's just crazy. Like he's getting on Antonio Brown level. Like maybe he's on to something.
I mean, like I said, I don't condone his actions, right? I think it's funny, but I still don't condone it. But I will say, like I said earlier, if there is something that we could take away from the things that he has said that has my ears is him calling out that coaching, not the coaching staff, the medical staff, and saying they don't know what they're doing. And it's like I've started to believe it. Like again, I don't condone the things he's done. I don't condone the way that he's handled himself, going at Jayden Daniels and all this other stuff, and saying I'm your daddy now, all this other weird shit. But the medical staff part, take all that aside. The medical staff part, I'm like, you know what? You might be right, Brandon. You have my ears. You might be right. So
So I'm glad you say that you might be right because there's a team down south who I think might be right in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So last week,
mm-hmm.
me and Hollywood Ray talked about it with Vita Vea because he requested a trade. He only specifically wanted West Coast teams, the Raiders, Chargers. I don't think the Niners are on it. I could be wrong, just because of what's been going on. I don't think he wants to go there, but he definitely wants to. I think the Rams were one of them. He definitely wants to on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Now, it's seeming like Todd Bowles and Jason Licht, they've said that now Vita Vea doesn't want to be traded. So
Mm.
I'm glad this we were talking about this subject because Ruben Bain has been absolutely lighting it up in
Mm-hmm.
training camp, and I'm not surprised about it just because of where he came from. And there might be some Hall of Fame coaches that taught him the right techniques. So with Vita Vea with the trade request, do you think with what he's been seeing with Ruben Bain, because I don't believe he passed his conditioning, Vita Vea, do you think with Ruben Bain and just the Todd Bowles defense that maybe it'll make him stay and help out the Tampa Bay defense?
Well, if you're the Buccaneers, that's what you're hoping for, right? Um, you're at a crossroads with Baker Mayfield. He doesn't want to talk extensions anymore. He's done. So you might be out of a quarterback this year. Or excuse me, come next year, excuse me. Um, Todd Bowles is on the hot seat. And for Vita Vea, the last that I heard, which it was from Ari Meroff, his agent told Ari Meroff directly, I don't see this ending in anything but a trade. And
Hmm.
if you're the Bucks, this is worst case scenario. So possibly, and I think with the trades in recent years, Miles Garrett, Micah Parsons, right? These are guys who, I mean, maybe Miles Garrett, we had an inkling he might get traded, but I never once thought that Micah Parsons was going to get traded, and he is now in Green Bay. We saw
Dexter
Miles Garrett.
Lawrence.
Yeah, Dexter Lawrence, right? Perfect example. So it's very much possible that they might say to themselves, well, if Bakers doesn't want to talk extensions anymore, and we can't even place a franchise tag on him, he's going to walk. do we blow it up? If, let's say, come week 5 or right before the deadline, like it's not looking good, do we fire Todd Bowles? Do we trade Vita Vea out and get whatever we can? Because we're gonna need as much capital as we can. Because we're gonna have to replace him. We're gonna have to replace possibly Baker Mayfield. We have to replace Chris Godwin. He's getting up there in age. We got to provide this quarterback with a revamped offense. Tampa has a lot of questions to ask themselves right now. And I think with Vita Vea, if he were to stick to his word and say he wants to go to the West Coast, I think a team like Oakland, I almost said Oakland, Vegas would make sense, but I don't see him going there. But I could really see a team like the Chargers making a lot of sense. They need a lot of help on that defense. I mean, they're still relying on players like Khalil Mack and Derwin James, who I like Derwin James. He's getting up there in age. Also can't stay healthy. Khalil Mack, I'm surprised he's still in the league. I mean, I like him, but he's not a difference maker anymore. You don't have one of the Bosas on there either. So it's like I do because I think that offensively LA is going to take a step forward, but I think defensively they're going to take a big step back. So do you get someone who can be that pillar on your defensive line? And it's not like you got to adjust the quarterback position next year. You can feel comfortable moving off of a first, knowing you have the coach, you have the left tackle and the right tackle, right? You have the quarterback. We need some players on defense that could be difference makers. And I think that he would fit what Jim Harbaugh loves and like what he would want to do. But the flip side to that is he could also stay put in Tampa and not get traded. So I
Yeah,
think I think for Tampa's sake they want him to stay, obviously.
yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to say he's in like Ndamukong Suh territory when he was getting traded around and what he was getting traded for. I just I do agree with you with the Chargers because like yeah, you have Vegas, but just because you know Tom Brady doesn't mean he Tom Brady can just do this with the Raiders and they're a playoff team.
No,
Like
but I
like
think that if we're talking roster to roster, the Raiders have a better roster than the Chargers, in my opinion. I mean, let's if we're looking at roster to roster, I mean, the quarterback is kind of a question mark, but I like Mendoza. I like Kirk Cousins as a placemaker for Mendoza until he's ready. But you have Max Crosby, you bring in the Kobe Dean, you bring in the other linebacker from Green Bay. Your defensive line was already pretty decent with Patrick Graham, and you add Vita Vea in that mix. You're looking at possibly one of the better defenses in the NFL, and especially when you're in a division where you got to stop Patrick Mahomes, you got to stop Justin Herbert, you got to stop Bo Nix and Sean Payton. I mean, I could see it. And he kind of, I'm not going to lie, I think Raider Nation would really accept and welcome in Vita Vea because he just looks like a Raider, right? With the crazy hair. Like I think the fan base would really get behind him. But again, I think ultimately, though, I do think that the Chargers make a lot of sense. But to your point, because I agree with you, what you said earlier, I want to circle back to this. Yeah, if you're Vita Vea, you got a guy like Ruben Bain right there who is looking nasty in training camp. You have Baker Mayfield who is looking to set the world on fire, right? I like it. I don't like Todd Bowles, but I like it for Vita Vea. But at the same time, it's like if your agent is saying I don't see it going any other way but a trade to an NFL insider, and like you're putting your name to that, it can't be good.
yeah,
I don't know.
and
It can't be good. But
yeah,
I think he's up there with the Dexter Lawrences of the world, where I think he's one of the better nose tackles in the NFL. I think he's top 3 in his position, personally. But
yeah, I definitely see that. He's definitely a good run stopper. He goes right through the gaps with great agility. I think what I would do is if I'm the Buccaneers, is tell him, listen, play the year in Tampa. We'll do it in the off season where you want to go. And I feel like almost like a Baker situation, he can light it on fire. He can go to the team that he wants to go to. the Buccaneers can get a first round because I feel like you could get more than what the Bengals gave the Giants for Dexter Lawrence.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I feel like it works out for both teams, whoever it may be that trades with the Buccaneers. So I feel like Vita Vea should just do that. I don't know if he's passed his conditioning test yet. I know that he couldn't because of I believe it was his calf or some degree of that. So maybe that'll just give him more fuel. Be like, listen, like I'm ready to go. Just ball out, do what you need to do, and then wait for next year instead of demanding a trade now. Because I don't see anybody giving up anything for someone who hasn't played a snap yet for this season.
Well, I mean, I think they'll look at because I think Vita Vea is an established player, right? He's one
Yeah,
of those players where you know what you're getting, right? You know that you're going to get a guy who's going to command double to triple teams. He can be a game wrecker. Um, and I think if a team feels like, hey, we have the quarterback, we have the coach, we have the left tackle, we have pieces here. This is what we need to secure our defensive line. I think they'll feel comfortable, but comfortable parting away with next year's first. I know a lot of teams are really valuing next year's draft, but I think Vita Vea personally, this is just me, and obviously I could be wrong. I think he should at least command 2 1s. With Dexter Lawrence, that was the first player in I think it was like 20 years or something like that that was able to recoup a top 10 pick in the NFL draft in the same draft. And that's probably not going to be the case, right? If you're a team that's trading for Vita Vea, like if you're the Chargers, you're probably not going to have the 10th pick. You'll probably be in like the 20s or late teens. If you're a team like, which I don't think the Rams would do it, they don't have the cap, not the cap, they don't have the, what's the word I'm
picks.
looking for? Yeah, they don't have the capital is what I was trying to say. Yeah, the picks too. They don't have that to trade for him. Thank God, right? That would be scary. But the 49ers, I mean, hell, I don't know. I think that if a team feels like this is someone who can not only be a difference maker but help us win right now, I wouldn't be shocked if by the trade deadline he's gone. Especially depending on how the Buccaneers look, right? Because I actually have the Bucks finishing in. I might sound crazy, but I have them finishing in third place in that division. I don't.
That's
I'm
pretty
really
low.
sold on the Saints this year. I'm really sold on Carolina last year. I thought they looked good. I loved what they did in the draft and free agency. And the Bucks, I'm not sold on Todd Bowles. I think they're an older team right now. They have some promising pieces, but I'm not. I don't know. So we'll see. But I think it's very much possible that he's gone before the trade deadline.
Hmm. Well, you know what? Maybe he might be able to go to this team at the trade deadline, depending on this player's situation. And that's the LA Rams with Aaron Donald. So, from what I saw today, Aaron Donald brought his speed coach from Pittsburgh to LA. He's had a tryout with the Rams, which is funny that he has to try out for the Rams. So maybe if Aaron Donald doesn't feel like he can come back, or he just isn't in that shape, Vita Vea could possibly swoop in because as we all know, Les Snead fuck them picks. That's what he does. So
Yeah,
that could be a
you're not
viable
wrong.
option. But how do you feel if Aaron Donald says, I can play for the Rams, I can play football, me and Miles Garrett are running things here? Like, how do you feel about that?
If I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm not sleeping. It's funny when Miles Garrett was traded, right? I texted Doug, our friend Doug, and I said, I hope you enjoyed that division while you had it, because he's a difference maker. You insert Aaron Donald in that equation, my goodness. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Houston unequivocally has the best defense, and it's not even close in the NFL. Then I would say probably Denver. You insert Aaron Donald in that defense with the addition of Miles Garrett, with the addition of Trent McDuffie and a couple other players that they brought in. I mean, you're talking about potentially the best defense. Yes, over Houston. That's if he were to come back. But In my honest opinion, though, he's not going to come back unless he feels like he can dominate at the next level. And obviously, Aaron Donald is Aaron Donald. He's going to dominate regardless. And I don't think this is just me. I don't think he would go through all of that if he wasn't seriously considering coming back. And we've seen, I don't know if you've seen, but I've seen a couple interviews with Sean McVay, who, he's already getting asked, like, do you think Aaron Donald's going to play a snap this year? And he got a smile on his face. And then the next question was, do you think Aaron Donald's going to play a snap in the month of September? And his smile got bigger. And it's like, just announce that he's coming back, man. Get it over with. Announce that he's coming back. Let me mentally prepare that I got to play this team on prime time week 2. Like, let's go. Like, please. But I love it for the Rams if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching on NFL Films the fearsome foursome of that LA Rams with Jack Youngblood, Merlin Olsen, Deacon Jones, like just seeing how those guys play. If you insert Aaron Donald, that's like the modern day fearsome foursome. Because even though they have Myles Garrett and that'll be Aaron Donald, they still have a good D line,
Mm-hmm.
which is insane to think that they can do this. And Aaron Donald's gonna pull LeBron James and somehow get a vet minimum deal, where it's not
Right.
gonna hurt the Rams cap space, and he's gonna. I feel like it's gonna take him. I'm gonna say four games worth to get just kind of back into that rhythm, because he has been gone for 4 years, and like I said, Father Time wins all. So I feel like if you get him in that 4 or 5 games, he's gonna be good to go. And yeah, like you said, offensive coordinators are not gonna be able to sleep. Like this is
No.
gonna be absolutely insane that you basically went to the divisional was they went to the champ game. No, yeah, they went to the champ
It
game
was,
this year,
yep,
right?
against the
The
Seahawks.
Seahawks.
Yep.
You essentially have that same team, and you just added 2 Hall of Famers in Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald. So it's like what you said, yeah, with Doug and the Seahawks, enjoy Hard Knocks, because you're gonna get knocked real hard in the regular season.
Hey, listen, I wouldn't put it past Seattle to actually upset them or split with them. I mean, when you go and watch those 2 games last year, boy, were they
Three,
really 3 games, right? Because they played in the playoffs, right? Just electric, right? I mean, you could argue each time they played, it was the game of the week. Just electric. You now add in Myles Garrett, Trent McDuffie, who I know when some people might be listening to this and being like, Trent McDuffie.
Super Bowl
No,
champion. What do you mean?
yeah,
He's
Super Bowl
Trent
champion, right?
McDuffie. You know what I mean?
But he's a difference maker. Their secondary wasn't that good last year. He's
Nope.
a big improvement compared to what they had. And then you include potentially Aaron Donald. I'll tell you something, Aaron. The way I would be glued to my seat to watch those Seahawks games every time they play, because you're going to see smash mouth defense from both sides of the ball, and I'm a guy who loves defense. So, I mean, I think it would be good for the league. I think it would be good for the Rams. And hell, if you're Aaron Donald, you're looking at that roster and you're saying to yourself, they got very close last year. Very, very close last year. This could
Without Aaron
potentially
Donald.
be the year where I could get my second ring. But that's just me. That's just me.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong on that. I wish the Giants were like that, but
Uh,
it is what it is. But yeah, there's not really much more to say with Aaron Darnold. With Aaron Donald. I don't know why I was thinking Darnold. Um, the only positive I can think about this is, again, we see the modern age fearsome foursome, where we can be like, yes, we saw one of the best D lines in football and two Hall of Famers playing on the same side, because
mhm.
they're gonna make it where Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett are literally on the same side. So if you double Aaron Donald, which they've used to doing, you're leaving Myles Garrett wide open. You
Absolutely.
double team Myles Garrett, you're leaving Aaron Donald wide open.
And we're
So
not even
really, it's a
talking
lose
about the
lose.
rest of that D line, which was actually stout last year,
Yeah, that's what
right?
I'm saying. That's why the fearsome foursome comes in.
So it would be, I'm talking, it would be box office if he signs. I would personally love to see what that defense looks like, because when was the last time a team had the talent of Aaron Donald, but then also had the talents of Miles Garrett, but also have the talent of Matthew Stafford and Puka Nakua, and also the coaching ability of Sean McVay? They might not lose a game. I mean, obviously that's being dramatic, but they might be one of those teams like we saw with Carolina, right? A couple years ago, right, where they went on what was it, like 15-1,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
I could
15
see
and one.
that. If you insert Aaron Donald in the equation, absolutely. I could absolutely. I would take Aaron Donald coming off of this slump more than I would most of the defensive tackles in the NFL, not named Chris Jones and Dexter Lawrence, personally. But even then, I would still take Aaron Donald over those two. I would just have my hesitations
Also,
just because he hasn't played in a little while. But I would still take him over those two. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair at all, but it would definitely be fun to see.
yeah, I think the closest in that scenario that you put, I mean, if I'm being honest, would probably be either the '07 Patriots or the '04 Eagles.
I mean, the '07 again, we're talking Aaron Donald. We're talking Miles Garrett. I love Bill Belichick, but we're talking Sean McVay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I would love to see how that division looks though. I mean, because again, you got the San Francisco substations, you have the Seahawks, and I'm not even gonna mention the Cardinals, man. They don't.
They don't
They might as well move divisions, dude. It's putrid over there.
go
My
back to the
God.
Chicago Cardinals. Or actually, what they would go back to the NFC East.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hey, we'll switch them out for Washington. Send Washington over there.
Oh,
Matter of fact,
geez.
no, send Dallas over there. They'll be all right. Send Dallas over there.
Oh man, seeing Dakota just getting mollywopped by Miles Garrett and Aaron
My
Donald.
God.
I'm just glad the Giants don't have to play him this year, so that's good.
Well, we do play the Rams. We play the Rams week 2.
Oh my god, I forgot.
We play Dallas week 1 on prime time, and then week
Right.
2 on prime time we play the Rams. So as a Giants fan, absolutely, I'm hoping that Aaron says, you know what, give me till like week 4, week 5 to make a decision. Let me see how this team is looking. Take all the time you need. You're good, Aaron. Take all the time you need. I'm not worried about Miles. I've seen Andrew Thomas lock him up, at least for
Yeah,
1 week.
this is Aaron Donald. That's the
Yeah, I know. God bless John Michael Schmitz. But
problem.
God
uh,
bless John Michael Schmitz.
well, before we get out of here, like we always do, we got our final thoughts. I'll go first. So my final thoughts are I'm seeing that Malachi Fields is becoming a number 2 option for a receiver for the New York Giants, which is very surprising. I don't want to get my hopes up because again, I've heard comparisons with him that he has the Plaxico burst length. He can catch like Plaxico. He's just as tall as Plaxico. There was a receiver that was before Malachi Fields. His name was Ramses Barden. Look him up. He played at Cal Poly. Same thing. He was the next Plaxico. He had the build like He never
Aaron,
saw the
wasn't
field.
Kenny Galladay supposed to be the next Plaxico
Kenny Galladay was supposed
for the New
to
York
be the best
Giants?
number 1. I don't remember him being a Plaxico.
I remember when we signed Kenny Galladay, the beat reporters were being like, "This is going to be Daniel Jones's Plaxico, the big
Oh,
body receiver that he could trust downfield to win the 50-50 balls." But hey, sorry, I just had to say that real quick.
no, that's
Continue.
fine. I didn't. I don't remember that, and I'm kind of glad I don't, because that would make me more furious.
I remember that very vividly. I remember that very vividly.
I
Uh,
will say though, I did
eh,
drink that Kool Aid with
I did
Kenny
too.
Galladay. I was like, you know what? He gets 1,000 yards. Cool. That's all I really care about. And he couldn't even score a touchdown.
Man,
With Daniel Jones, he did with current offensive coordinator for the Broncos,
Davis Webb.
Davis Webb, also Reese's All American in the Senior Bowl. And also to wrap it up, I hope OBJ stays on the Giants roster, especially after what he said in the press conference. I really hope he stays on the team. He's doing everything he needs to. He's mentoring the young receivers. I love it, and I just hope I can dust off my old 13 Beckham jersey, and because Jalen Hyatt will be cut, and Odell brings back number 13, and as always, Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely. Just my little quick final thoughts, really quick. Football is back. So definitely expect more streams from us. Definitely expect more streams from Aaron and I. I'm gonna have him on my pod a lot. Hopefully, if Aaron wants to, talking New York Giants football. But football is back. I'm very excited to see how the season goes. Um, I mean, I hope some of these preseason games can live up to how the Hall of Fame game was last night. But feels good to be back for sure, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, if any content creators, if you're getting into the game, if you're unsure of how to, make graphics, make anything of that sort, make sure you follow Christian Cruz on Twitter. Yeah, I'm gonna call it Twitter. It is Christian A Cruz underscore. He did all of this. I have ideas, and he already knows what I'm thinking. And he just puts right there on the canvas. So make sure if you guys anyone needs any help, don't be afraid to throw it in the DMs like, hey, I need some help, and he has no problem helping you out.
For sure.
But that's the episode of the Fake Football Analyst podcast. I'm your host of the most, Aaron Cass, here with Christian Cruz. And Hollywood Ray will be here. He's just doing Hollywood things at Fenway Park, that's all. But we'll see when we see you. Peace.
Peace.